Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorairaj. I'm from HP. I'm responsible for the security of the Helium OpenStack. Today, I'd like to talk about the security auditing and logging use cases. And what I'm going to be covering today is basically why do we need security auditing? What are some of the use cases for security auditing? What are some of the compliance standards and certifications? And what kind of auditable events we need in OpenStack today? With that in mind, as enterprises are taking their journey to the cloud, as much as the cloud gives them a lot of benefits in terms of cost efficiency, agility, and business model optimization, the trust and compliance continues to remain key concerns for enterprises. And the constant questions that they keep asking themselves is, I want to be able to leverage the cloud environment for better business responsiveness, but how can I ensure that my data is secure? So security continues to remain top concern for enterprises. And even within security, how do they trust that the data will be secure? And how do they remain compliant? That is a huge, huge concern for enterprises as we talk to many of them. There are various types of compliance standards and certifications that enterprises have to adhere to depending on the type of industry they fall under, whether if there's retail and they're subject to credit card, if they have hold credit card data, then they're subject to PCI DSS. And if it's service providers, they're subject to CSA star. And if you look at the government accounts, they are more responsible for, they have to adhere to FedRAMP and common criteria and FIPS and so on. A lot of these compliance standards require extensive documentation. Audit reports is very critical to meet that need. And when we really take a closer look at these certifications and standards, it's very easy to see that there are various sections within these standards and certifications that actually point out to very specific audit controls. Now, these are really key requirements as enterprises move to the cloud, particularly OpenStack. And it's important that all these OpenStack services be able to audit, be able to log specific events to support this type of compliance. In addition to compliance, auditing also covers a huge range of use cases. So if you were to really look at it, while compliance is more from an operational management perspective, so it's more of a checkbox, more like, okay, I need to satisfy these controls, and I need to get through with the auditor. Now, that's an important requirement that's a basic requirement for a lot of enterprises as they move to the cloud, because whether it's cloud or whether it's a traditional environment or virtualized environment, they are still bound by compliance and regulations. And additionally, security monitoring and response is a very key aspect of auditing. Now, Venom is a great example of the type of threats that enterprises had to face and how quickly they had to respond to these type of breaches. Now, in order to be able to respond to these breaches, whether it's from outside attacks or whether it's from insider attacks, is extremely critical to maintain a good audit trail. So auditing really is not only needed for compliance, but it's also needed for security monitoring and response. Now, as you move up the stack, auditing is also required for risk management and advanced SI and OC. And these type of use cases are more thinking about security in a very proactive strategic stance. And for all of these, having a good audit trail is very critical. Now let's take a look at, having said that, let's take a look at what are the key use cases for auditing in OpenStack. So, but if you really look at the different functions of security, you have authentication and access control, you have data encryption and key management, you have provisioning orchestration, you have logging and monitoring. Additionally, you have what type of events have to be logged in order for future auditing, and we'll take a look at those as well. Now, if you were to take a look at authentication and access control, so clearly being able to log admin activity and particularly being able to handle privilege escalation is very critical from a compliance standpoint. And this is to ward away any kind of insider threats, or any kind of insider attacks. Now, as far as any kind of unsuccessful login attempts, preventing kind of brute force attacks, any kind of policy changes, or any sensitive files, or any kind of file integrity monitoring. Those are all very important activities that have to be logged from each of these OpenStack services. Now, if you also look at federated authentication, we talked about it today, and being able to log the provider information for future auditing is an important requirement as well. Now, if you want to look at data encryption and key management, from an auditing perspective, some of the key use cases here are you want to be able to you want to be able to log creation and deletion, enabling, disabling, assigning, revoking, any kind of export, import, encryption strength, key rotation activities. Now, these have to be logged for any kind of future auditing. So logging and auditing go hand in hand. The first step is to be able to log these events for future auditing purposes. Now, from a provisioning and orchestration perspective, you have deletion of VM images, GLANs, and heat templates, and these type of activities need to be audited as well. And another key requirement from an auditing perspective is any kind of access to audit logs. So this is to prevent attackers from covering their own trail. Is we need to be able to access, log the access to audit log. We need to be able to log any kind of access to audit logs, or any sort of initialization, stopping or pausing, or even vulnerability scans as well. Now, as we look into storage and remote maintenance, the type of events that we want to be able to log for future auditing include access to virtual storage and media access data. And in terms of remote maintenance, any type of connection activities on a variety of system components. And this is basically, today you have a lot of employees bringing in their own device, bringing in their own apps. So IT folks need to be able to have a solid audit trail of these type of activities in order to satisfy compliance requirements. Now, having talked about auditing, a key part of auditing, a key enabler for security monitoring and for auditing is to have centralized monitoring, centralized logging. So centralized logging with HP Helium Stack has been implemented with the help of Logstash. And so with the help of Logstash, we've been able to centralize all the different logging services. And in this case, RabbitMQ as the message bus that dumps all the logs into Logstash. Now, what we've also been able to do, and a key enabler for this is the integration with SIM tools. And Oxite is one of an HP product, and we've been able to do integration with that, and we've also done integration with Splunk. And both of these tap into our centralized logging. And this is very critical from a monitoring perspective and also from an auditing perspective. And because a lot of these products come with out-of-the-box auditing, and as long as we're able to, OpenStack is able to send those events to these SIM tools, enterprises can do continuous cloud monitoring and any type of auditing for compliance purposes. Now, let me quickly walk you through some of the screenshots of what we've been able to do. So a good example of this would be, a good use case will be, let's say that you wanted to have solid auditing for being able to monitor any type of brute force attacks through a SIM tool. Now, this is an example, a screenshot from our integration that basically shows how you can monitor any type of brute force attacks. Now, the key takeaway from this is the monitoring is only as good as the logging that individual services are able to do. So therefore, it's very important and critical for individual OpenStack services to be able to give log the level of activity and log the level of information that's needed from an auditing perspective. And to this effect, the 7 Ws of auditing is a very critical aspect to look at it, because those are the ones that are that satisfy a majority of the compliance standards. So your auditing can only be as good as how good your logging is. So therefore, it's very critical to have solid logging capabilities in order for any kind of threat monitoring or auditing. And here is another example where we've been able to monitor Cinder volume creation and deletion of events. And another example is being able to monitor any sort of glance image creation and deletion of events. And again, these were all, the integration was done using Logstash, using centralized logging. and one of the connectors for the SIM tool, which is ArcSight. Likewise, for Splunk, we've been able to do the integration. It's basically a very simple configuration, and as long as Logstash is able to forward the logs using JSON format into these SIM tools, it's very easy for an enterprise to be able to monitor from a security standpoint for any sort of anomalies or any kind of events through their SIM tools. Another example would be ANOVA instance creation and deletion of events. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation and with two key takeaways. And one is that auditing is very critical for meeting compliance standards. Auditing is very critical also from a security compliance monitoring perspective. And auditing can only be as good as the type of logging that each of the services can do. Therefore, it's very important that each of these services are able to log the appropriate security events, which can later be audited through an audit record. And a good standard for adhering to is the CADF, which is the Cloud Audit Data Federation. Some of the OpenStack services have adopted to it, not all of them. It's a very partial in progress. So one of the things that we can do as a community is to have greater adoption of CADF, because CADF is something that gives you the audit record in a format that easily satisfies a lot of the compliance standards that we talked about earlier. So with that, thank you for listening and have a great day.